Hi, it is Sunday, August the 16th, and I'm here again to give you just a quick update on where we stand in terms of the pandemic. And again, the news is good. I hope that you'll be encouraged by what I have to share with you today. We always start with a quick look at the numbers, and it's easy to give you a quick update in terms of global and national numbers. There's not a lot that's changed. In fact, it's been almost flatlined for the past 2 weeks. Globally and nationally, the numbers of new cases are down like 1%, so basically pretty much unchanged. It's about 255,000 new cases per day globally, and between 54 and 55,000 new cases per day in the United States over the past week. Again, those are about 1% changes. Globally, deaths are down about 5% over the last week. Nationally, deaths are up about 5% over the last week, so not a great deal of change there. The good news, though, is close to home. In the state of Alabama, we're seeing really significant declines in the numbers of new cases, and that's very encouraging. Over the last 1 week alone in Alabama, we have seen a 30% decline in new cases. And here in Baldwin County, we continue to see a decline in cases. It's been down 17% over the last week. But more significantly, when we look over the past few weeks, in the state of Alabama, 4 consecutive weeks of decline. In the last 4 weeks, we've seen the numbers go down 44% in terms of new cases. And here in Baldwin County, over a span of just 3 weeks, we've seen a decline in new cases by 60%. 3 weeks ago today, that rolling 7-day average was 118 new cases per day. As over the course of the past 7 days, that's now down to 48 new cases per day and continuing to decline. The bottom line is the social distancing and masking and hygiene and avoiding crowds, all those things that we're doing right now, it's working. It's making a really big difference. And so be encouraged by that. It's not a time to let down our guard, but do be encouraged. And I hope that those numbers will help to inform you so that you can make better decisions in terms of what you may feel safe doing. Again, people who are high risk may still want to avoid some of the places like restaurants and church and all, but I hope that as we continue to see the numbers decline, that it's going to feel more and more safe for many of us to get back to some of the normal things in life, particularly church being one of those things. Certainly here in our church, we're very careful to make sure everyone wears masks, and we still do the social distancing in everything that we do here. But we still want to make sure that we're using all of these safeguards. I do want to take a moment today and just say a word about looking at where this thing is going and where it's likely, how it's likely to play out. I've noticed even in the last week a number of people who are saying things about what they expect in the long run that really seem to be pretty far off base. And I just want to encourage you with a thought of how this is very likely to play out. And it helps first maybe to recognize what's not going to happen. I hear people saying again and again, well, I don't know why we're even continuing to bother with all this stuff because this isn't going away. We're all going to get it. So what's the point of even trying to fight it because we're all going to get it? And that's really probably not accurate at all. I mean, yes, the disease is going to stick around, but the truth of the matter is we're not all going to get it in any time in the near future if we're doing the things that we should be doing. 6 months in, we're looking at about 2% of America that's gotten COVID-19. If we continue to exactly where we are right now with about 55,000 new cases per day, and you did that solid for the next 6 months, if we didn't knock that down in the least, only about 5% of America would have ever gotten the disease in the first year that it was around in the United States. And by that time, we will have a vaccine, and we'll be making some real progress in preventing people from getting it. So it really isn't a situation where we need to say, oh, it doesn't matter because we're all going to get it, and we're going to be dealing with the same thing this same time next year, so it doesn't matter what we do with schools or what we do with sporting events or those kinds of things. And that's not accurate. The truth of the matter is we're getting on top of it first by the things that we're already doing in terms of masking and social distancing, those types of things, avoiding crowds. We are probably now less than 6 months from having at least one vaccine, one successful vaccine. And again, the CDC is defining successful as it has to have at least a 50% effective rate. That's similar to the flu vaccine. It's not a 100% thing. But even if it's 50% effective, it's very likely that in the first 6 months of 2021 that we'll see 100 million or more of the population in the United States be vaccinated. And once that happens, what we're going to see is that the R-naught factor of this disease between people masking and people beginning to be vaccinated, especially those who are most at risk, we'll see the death numbers just really tank. The disease is very likely to continue to gradually mutate towards something that's less deadly. Doctors and researchers are continuing to make progress, not so much in terms of being able to cure the virus. Honestly, it's very unlikely they're ever going to cure this virus for people who've gotten it, but they're getting better at treating the symptoms, things like the cytokine storm that sets in people's bodies once this gets really bad. And they're getting better at treating these things, with the net result that between therapeutic treatments and just with the disease gradually becoming less and less deadly on its own, the way that it mutates, what we'll probably see by this time next year is enough people have immunity through vaccines, others because they've had the disease, and now it's a less deadly disease, and most of the at-risk population being vaccinated by this time next year, there's a great likelihood that we won't be looking at a large number of deaths. So when we're going into the school year next year, it's probably going to be a very different scenario from where we are right now. So it's just going to be a combination of things. Us continuing to do what we know to do, people getting vaccinated, particularly those who are in the higher risk categories in the first half of next year. We're going to see this thing become less and less of a threat in terms of the numbers of people that it'll kill. It's already beginning to be a little bit less of a threat as doctors become better at treating this. All of that said, it's more and more encouraging. With every passing week, things look brighter and less bleak. And a big part of that hinges on people like you and me just doing the things that we can every day to keep other people safe. It's a practical way to show that we love and respect other people. So thank you for continuing to do your part. Thank you for staying positive. I'm Mark Price, reminding you to continue to do those things, to stay safe and to stay positive, and always remember that you are loved.